audience for the
Is that
Seminole
like for the
Utilities
water
report.
bills?
I'm
For
sorry?
like, is that for like the water bills and stuff?
Yes, yes.
They're too dang high. If you want my opinion. They are too high.
Do we have any other from the audience?
How are water bills calculated?
Yeah, how are they calculated?
Go ahead, Jay. He's the master at the calculation.
He got real red.
The base rate per gallon, or per 1,000 gallon actually, and then it goes up from there on water and sewer, and then garbage is separate. There's a 5% increase annually. Is there an aspect of it that you feel is too high, or the entire bill?
The whole bill?
The whole bill.
Entire bill?
Yeah, you don't want me to get me on WCA either.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've had problems with WCA.
I was under the impression that you have a total expense, and then you have so many people supporting that expense, you try to calculate something that falls into place, but that's not the way it works.
No.
I mean, I didn't think that was flexible, I just thought that that was set at a certain time and then go forward from there. But I know it has to pay for itself pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, or it's just, or we can't have it.
I'd like to intervene that the city really doesn't make profit on the water bills. It's pretty much designed over the years with the council that it just barely covers what it costs to do what we do. And it's not really any revenue to speak of in the long run. We make a little bit of money on one aspect, but on another aspect, like the big dumpsters that are carried away, you
Yeah.
lose money on. So they just try to even it out. And, you know, it is high, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we woke is a lot higher than ours.
Well, Locust is 147 minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, we're not making money on the residents of Seminole. We're just covering the cost of what it does. and
I
what
know
it
that y'all have
costs.
to
Now,
have like certain.
we've got to
rules.
pick it up, you know. There's a lot of houses out there
Oh,
that
yeah.
throws it in the backyard. But we're trying to keep from that happening, and it is what it is.
So, Mr. Mayor, we do regular surveys on rates, and we have a rates committee that we report back to, and they kind of come back with recommendations. The trash service, obviously, we're kind of missed our budget there by a big margin. We're in effect breaking even. But we do surveys with other communities our size and larger and smaller, and try to figure out where we are in the scheme of things. And we are not expensive. We are, especially in trash and water, we are not expensive. So I do understand that certain persons with fixed incomes have real issues making water increase payments. However, typically, and we track this also, if the Social Security Administration, they often give cost of living increases because of what sewer and water and trash rates are doing. So that happens on an annual basis. So
But Medicare takes that right back out.
Someone has to pay the premiums there too. It's Medicare is something, we don't have anything.
Oh, I know.
So could I please get your name and address? We usually ask people that speak if they give
Oh,
their name and address.
Misty Leeson, 37 University, North University.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, we'll move on to the Seminole City Council. Roll call, please, Jack.
Chris Edson. Here. Dee Patterson.
Here.
Stephanie Lambert.
Here.
Larry Church.
Sure.
Tim Poplin.
Here.
Bill Wantland.
Here.
Corey Crabtree. Here. John Kramer. Jeff Griffin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Third time today I've done this.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you bring a prayer, please?
Isagana misi and Mishka Hanga Givadai, Pomakasapka and Quijit and Meadow, Moment Portalofa Seminole, Moment Boyste Morgan, Moment Didi Patterson, E Ortholobi Pali Hokorlin, Itinoki Chiquitas, Moment Chimi Sakana misi Anogetskas. God, whose mercies cannot be numbered, accept our prayer of thanks for the city of Seminole and for all our people and for D.D. Patterson and his 20 years of service. Let us love one another for you, God, our love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bill. Consideration and action of consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson. Stephanie Lambert.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree. Motion passes.
With no items removed from the consent agenda, we'll move on to ordinances. Item 1, consideration and possible action to approve ordinance number 1237, an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 18 of the City Code, smoking and tobacco use in public places and indoor places.
I read that, it was, but basically it looks like that we're just, doing, what's required lawfully. And it needs to be reinforced or something, or?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree. Yes. Motion passes.
Item 2, consideration and possible action to approve ordinance number 1238, an ordinance rezoning the Homestake Edition lots 17 through 21, Block 2, also known as 214 West Strother, from R2, two-family residential, to C1 neighborhood commercial. Would you like to give a little background on why this is occurring?
Yes, sir. We've got a property over by, behind Bob Swearingen Funeral Home, which was formerly known as the Heartland Church. And we've had some good people, some citizens that have decided that they want to renovate that and convert it into an area that will be able to house women that are in recovery from addictions of various natures. They appeared before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission voted to approve that rezone and submit it to you for that. So we've been informed, and they gave a great little list of people that will not be allowed in there, which included violent offenders. So we're not going to be housing anyone in there that is of a violent nature. So we've had many discussions with our code enforcement group and the people that are doing the renovation, and it appears like all is going to be as advertised, and we are going to recommend, as the Planning Commission did, that you approve the rezone.
And I don't believe there was anyone at the Planning Commission that was opposed.
That's correct. There was no opposition.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I believe there was a part missing in this. I don't believe unless I missed it back here, appearances, we didn't have any appearances listed.
Under your report.
Is it under the report?
No, that's where, wait a minute.
No, the appearances from the audience.
Oh,
That was not on this agenda. Are we good to go ahead and ask for that? Okay. So we'll stop where we're at and go back to, are there any appearances or petitions from the audience for the Seminole City Council?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I'm with the Seminole Arts Council, and I just want to take the opportunity to let you all know that we're having our first art walk this Saturday, and there's going to be artists from Oklahoma City and Seminole. You guys coming out and checking out what we got going on is going to help us continue every month, and hopefully, every month it will get bigger and better. The artists will be selling their artwork. They have murals that are in progress to be put up downtown, so it's gonna be a good thing, and I really would like you guys to come and show your support.
We keep bragging about how much support we have in Seminole, so
And we're
if you guys
doing
show
it.
up, then y'all really be.
Please list the address.
309 East Broadway, and we will, be there, it'll be indoors, and we'll have crafts for the kiddos, we'll have beverages and snacks and music and all kinds of stuff,
And the time is?
1 to 5.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes?
I'm with the American Legion, and across the street, there's a Veterans Park with a city flag on it. I need your flag gone permanently. We are going to put up a flag, a burial flag, and we are going to fly that flag for 30 days in honor of fallen veterans. There's going to be 1 month of veteran. It will be in the paper on who that veteran is flying for. And we just need the flagpole to do what we want to do.
So you want to use our flagpole, is that what you're
That's
saying?
my flagpole, you know that. Come on, Larry.
I'm sure we can make that happen.
Because I didn't want to take the flag down and have him back here with 25 of his buddies with guns.
What's the rental on the flagpole?
I think he's saying the rent's been paid.
I love it.
Thank you.
But we are going to fly that flag. I have the burial flag, and we're going to fly that flag for 30 days for a fallen veteran. And that veteran will be recognized in the paper. And I need y'all's support.
Will that continue after another 30 days, every
They
month?
keep going. We'll get a different veteran every month.
Their family receives the flags, right, Carl?
Yeah, see what it is. Let's say like Ernie dies, he's a veteran. They take that flag off that casket and they fold it. You never unfold the burial flag. And you definitely don't fly it outside. I am gonna supply a brand new flag, which I've already got. I am gonna put it on that flagpole. That flag won't come down. Unless it tears up or something, then I'll replace it. But for every month, we're gonna put it in the paper, if you guys approve of it, this week, and asking people if they would like that flag to fly in honor of their loved one. And I'll get them, and then I'll put it in the paper. Hey, this month, it's flying for this 30 days for this veteran. And it won't come down unless I need to replace it. And you guys don't have to worry about messing with it. That's the Legion's job.
Is that something that we need to vote on like next month, or can we pass it?
I don't, oh, well, we can't vote on it now, but I don't see a reason to have to vote on it.
No, we'll handle it administratively, I believe. That's under our purview. As long as there's a flag there, I think we're in good shape.
I
We're
hope
not gonna
you,
take that flag down. Don't call him.
well, I hope you don't have to fly one for me.
Oh, no. Maybe Dee Dee, but not you.
Dee, did you hear this?
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item 4. Consideration and possible action to approve ordinance number 1240.
What about item 3?
Did I skip it?
Just
I
once.
got ahead of myself, just once, yeah. Item 3.
Hey, Jeff, we still had a comment from the
Oh, we
audience.
did?
That Danny
Yes, sir.
Williams was wanting to talk about what we
Okay.
talked about,
Sure.
please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you tonight. The board of the Seminole County House of Hope has been in place for 6 years, and we've been encouraged by former Judge George Butner and Tammy Wall, drug court, and Attorney Carter and others that we needed to do something in this area to help people. And we've been working on it for 6 years. And what the planning commission did last week was a major step in that direction. And with your approval tonight, really opens the door for us to meet the code issues that we think we can meet, and we're on track to do that. And in the very near future, start helping people in this county that need to restore their lives. We have one area that we are going to reserve. If a mother has children that we can help with them, we'll do that. We have another room for counseling for reintegration of families with their mothers. And I just wanted to tell you tonight that this is a major accomplishment for us and for what we've been working on for 6 years, and that you're a very important part of that. I want to say thanks to you. Brad Carter's been a part of it, and everyone that's been to the facility, but everyone that's had a role in that. But unfortunately, I just want to say a heartfelt thanks for your help. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams, I don't know if everyone here understands that this is for mothers, for women.
For women.
This is for women only, and their children, if they,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
okay.
Are there
Another
any
hooray
others?
for women. What'd you say?
Down your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Are there
that's
any
right.
others before I move on to item 3? Hopefully I don't have to go back to number 2.
Oh, we'll let you. That's okay.
All right, no one? All right, we'll move on to item 3. Consideration and possible action to approve ordinance number 1239, an ordinance amending the City of Seminole's Code of Ordinances for the purpose of permit and fee requirements for residential sales.
Mrs. Emmett.
This came about after I talked to our code enforcement officers who, it's getting ready to be garage sale season, and there are several times they'll go to garage sale sites that do not have a $5 permit. If they write a ticket, it's anywhere from $350 to $750 at the judge's discretion. We're trying not to write tickets for that, and this is a way around that if we find a garage sale that does not have a permit, we can write them a permit on site for a little bit of a higher fee to say, mainly to say, you really need to come in before your sale to get your $5 permit.
So what happens if the next time there's garage sale and the same person does the same thing?
They are allowed up to 3, but if it's the same person and it's the same situation, we will have a little bit of discretion whether to write them a ticket or to write them another permit.
And I ask that, because I read, but I ask that so everyone will understand that you don't get to do that every time.
Exactly.
If there's concerned to be an increase in that fee.
I would be concerned that people would rather take the risk and just not get one at all, and if they don't get caught,
But we do have code enforcement officers out on weekends.
I mean, they're checking every garage sale.
They are.
What is the fee, second time? I mean, if they don't pay the $5, when you go out and find them in an illegal garage sale, heaven forbid that should happen in our city. How much do you tag them for?
If they go out and there's no permit, it's $20.
20?
That's their whole profit.
Basically.
But the handcuffs are very uncomfortable.
That's when you call him.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Vicky Patterson,
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert,
Yes.
Larry Church,
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Waltman,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree. Yes. Motion passes.
Item 4, consideration and possible action to approve ordinance number 1240, an ordinance amending section 441 of the City of Seminole's Code of Ordinances for the purpose of licensing animals.
Mayor, I'd like to hear some input on this deal, whoever's on top.
Okay, so we put this back on at the request of a couple of council members. You'll recall that we talked about it a little bit last year, at length last year. We had an incident within the city of Seminole where a young boy was attacked by 2 dogs, and those dogs did some permanent damage to the boy. Fortunately, he has survived. We knew that you would probably want to have some discussion about vicious animals, et cetera, et cetera. This is a way to get it back on the agenda in front of you to talk about. Now, being transparent, I don't believe that this ordinance alone really gets into the viciousness or the animals that are a real problem. What this does is it talks more about spay and neutering and getting the stray animals under control, which Animal Control and the Humane Society have begged us to do for quite some time. But it does encompass all of the things that you may want to talk about in terms of tightening some of the things for animal control. I visited at length with Brad. I'll let him speak for himself. Yeah, in the committees, but I'll let him speak for himself on, we feel pretty strong that we've got good ordinance in place for vicious animals. And there's aggressive, is that the word? Dangerous. So if they show a propensity to be aggressive, then we have a lot of latitude within the existing ordinance to take control of that animal. So we just need to have it reported. And Bree is about to embark on a campaign to, if you see something, say something. It goes, most people think of burglary or something like that, but it also pertains to animals. I mean, if we've got issues, we need to know those issues. And so I just want to leave it to the council for discussion. Again, this ordinance is really more geared toward the fees associated for permitting animals within the city of Seminole, but I know you all have a heart for taking care of our citizens with relation to vicious dogs and animals.
Now, we do have the vicious dog ordinance separate from this.
Yes.
And also, I was trying to look through that because I'd seen something where somebody was supposedly told they couldn't have their doghouse outside, and I'm assuming, they didn't go to a lot of detail, I would assume that it was in the front yard perhaps, or perhaps there wasn't a fence. I couldn't think of any other reason. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, if you're talking about the ordinance, we have the ordinance for dangerous animals and the ordinance for vicious animals. As a matter of fact, the council bolstered the vicious animal ordinance in 2018 after we had an incident, and gave the code enforcement, or actually our animal control authorities, the ability to designate or label an animal as dangerous, or based upon just the behavior of the animal, and that would trigger some certain precautions that the owner would have to take, such as a fence and in keeping the dog enclosed. So we have that in place now. Also, if there's been an animal that has attacked someone, we can demand that they put up a $50,000 bond, and not only have the same precautions, but even keep them to probably, I'm not gonna say we can force them to take that animal out of city limits, but that seems to be the one thing that puts the that encourages them to do so. So,
And I couldn't find it, but do we not have somewhere in the code something regarding dogs being on leashes? They're not allowed to roam free?
yeah, tethering, we've got a tethering. We did that, I think, last year.
Well, I remember seeing they're not allowed to be tethered for more than 12 hours at a time, but as far as in like somebody letting their dogs out to go to the bathroom or something, that needs to be within a fenced yard. They can't just, they're not allowed to just roam, are they?
No, that's in the body of the.
I couldn't find the actual leash where it said they had to be on a leash at all
Yeah.
times if they were outside.
Yeah,
I
I
could
don't,
not find
I don't
that.
recall that, but they're not supposed to be, they're not supposed to be free and roaming,
Okay,
period.
okay. I was hoping that, like that, I was hoping you'd know where that was at, because
can't-
I read through it and couldn't find, I saw the tethering part, but I couldn't find the actual being on a leash. But I was just concerned because that, you know, they were saying that they were told they couldn't have a doghouse outside. And I'm like, I couldn't find anything about a doghouse.
I think that the
But
ordinance,
I
not
would
to go back
assume that
and,
it was maybe a doghouse that was not within a fenced yard, and therefore meaning that the dog would be out to roam free or something, and maybe that was the case,
I
but,
think that the animal has to be under control at all times by the
Okay.
owner.
okay. And then as far as this ordinance that we're looking at tonight, the one thing, you know, I see we have an, emergency clause associated with it, which would basically make it go into effect immediately.
Yeah, we do not want, the staff recommendation is not to do that. I was talking to the chief last week, they're not ready to do that anyway. They have to, if you vote for, to pass the ordinance, they're gonna have to make arrangements to get the machines and everything to prepare the tags and everything.
The
What I
other
was told.
thing that I would like to put on here for maybe this, when it goes into effect, is there's a certain amount of time that people have if their dog is not spayed or neutered. I know we're trying to control the population of strays, but I don't want this going into effect and people immediately having to either pay the $75 or, you know, versus the $10. I think they need to be allotted sometime, you know, either 6 months or a year to have that done, because it renews yearly. If they don't have it done by the second year that this is in effect, then they have to pay the $75.
Yeah,
To
we can
give them
put an
some
effective
leeway.
date on the ordinance if you wanna do that, or we can add a provision to give them, to make it.
I would just like to give them some leeway, so if they don't have, you know, that
Sure.
much money to pay a permit fee or to be able to afford to have it spayed, you know, in 30 days when this goes into effect, I don't want them to be in trouble because of that.
Yeah, because most senior citizens, they won't have that money. Most senior citizens, they won't have it. And they're gonna be struggling as it is. Some senior citizens gonna be struggling. And that's what I'm worried about.
Well, I think it's probably something we should take it into account a couple of ways in the ordinance. As I understand it, one of the primary benefits of having this ordinance is to be able to identify ownership of a dog and prevent that, or a cat, or whatever, and prevent them from ending up in the shelter, because the police can, especially if it's tagged with one of those electronic things. That way they can scan them and take them home. Or if they're involved in a vicious attack, then they can assign responsibility for those animals. I mean, there's always a dogs are like people's children. You know. At least mine are when I have them. And when you start talking about doing things with their pets, you know, it's a very emotional kind of thing. But also, you know, it has the upside of keeping your animal from ending up in the pound, or being euthanized, or sent off to, you know, Happyville, some other place, like we have to do sometimes. But I think that there's enough interest in our community and sympathy for people who have dogs in their home, elderly people, that we can probably, I think you collect enough money to and it's tiered, so that if you do have your dog chipped and so forth, then the other expenses essentially go away. So that'd be something that we could try to raise funds for, and I think most people would donate a few bucks to that. That's just my feeling. But I think the ordinance is great.
There is one other thing I don't like in the ordinance.
Uh-oh.
Well, it says here that in order to be exempt from those higher fees, you have to be a commercial breeder. Some people don't necessarily commercially breed their dogs, but if they've paid for a registered dog and they want to breed it with another dog, you know, maybe every once in a while, I don't think they should have to have like a commercial breeder's license to do that and not have to pay the $75 a year. I think if they have registration papers and shows that their dog is registered, that, you know, and that's the reason they're not doing it, that should suffice the requirement.
That was brought up, the committee, again, this was based upon a committee that was appointed by the mayor, and there were several things in that ordinance or the proposal that they talked about, and one of the things that, and it kind of, from what I understand, it kind of got confusing, but just exactly what you said, there are some people that are not going to have a kennel, they're not going to have a place where they just exclusively breed dogs, but they might breed their dog with another one that they have there. So, and I don't have it in front of me, but there was a provision, there should be a provision there that they can present their documentation or whatever to the Animal Control Authority, and they can exempt them from that higher fee if there's satisfactory, basically, evidence that that's what they're doing, they're documenting it. And I think that's the kind of the spirit of that provision. So they do not necessarily have to be a commercial breeder, yes. But if it says that, I mean, we can strike that to make it a little bit more clear.
I've also talked to
Ma'am,
the.
if you'd wait just
Oh.
a second, we have other council members who'd like to ask questions first. Go ahead.
The problem, I like the concept of what's going on here, but the problem that, and I've talked to several people over this is just not my opinion. I really hate to penalize the people that take care of their dogs. You have a dog, you got a fenced-in yard, you're gonna have to buy a permit and all of that. I think the people that are abusing the law and lets their dogs run out, they are not gonna go buy a permit. Now, if there's some teeth in the laws that say, okay, if you don't do this, then instead of $75, it's gonna be $300. And I can go with that. But I really think that what we're doing is penalizing the people that are following the laws, the residents of Seminole, for a few people that lets them run. Now, if I'm wrong, please tell me. I wish the code enforcement officers and the dog people were here tonight, but they're not. And that's just my feelings of it, and I just don't want to hurt 90% of the good citizens for the 10% that's not following the rules. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me.
Steve, did you have?
Yes, sir. I don't think that the public has the ordinance in front of them, so if you don't mind, I'm going to read just the expense section.
Okay. And then,
Okay, so a permit, annual permit, is $10 per animal if the animal is spayed or neutered. It's $5 per animal if it's spayed, neutered, and microchipped. If it is $75 if the animal is not spayed or neutered, and $65 if the animal is not spayed or neutered, but it is microchipped.
One of the things that the chief told me was they do pick up a lot of animals, animal control does, that belong to people, but they're not tagged. And so if they were tagged, they would just be able to, get the dog back to the rightful owner without having to pick it up, take it to the pound, and do all that, which they would do anyway. That was kind of another side benefit to ensuring that they have them, registered or microchipped. Also, and I didn't know this, but I'm not familiar with microchipping, but I asked him about microchipping. Apparently, it's I won't say inexpensive, I guess is how you look at it, but he said it could be done anywhere between $10 and $20. per animal. He also said that, according to the veterinarians that were on the committee, if you have a dog that maybe you moved from Oklahoma City and your dog's microchipped already, that a lot of these are standardized, and, you know, the readers that they would have, our animal control would be able to read that particular microchip as well. I mean, again, I don't have my dogs microchipped. They've got tags and, you know, their name and our number on it, but, and they've gotten out, so I'm fortunate, most of my neighbors know what our dogs look like, but, you know, a basset hound doesn't get very far.
Your tags are rabies tags, correct?
Both.
And
Yeah.
they can, the vet, anybody can look at that number and say, okay, this is where we need to take the dog. If they're following the laws and getting the rabies shots, they already ought to have that. Now, if they're running around with no collar or anything, then that's a different story. But I just think we're double dipping here, but that's just my opinion.
Well, it's my understanding, I think, you guys, there's one person on the committee here, and I don't see Chief, but he was saying that the reason they can't ticket or they can't do anything about it is because we don't have an ordinance that says they have to. And the registration is what makes them have to go give their dog shots, and it kind of makes them accountable for that. But we don't have any ordinances to back that up.
What's wrong with an ordinance that said if they don't have the rabies tags on them, instead of buying a $15 permit or a $5 permit, or, my dogs are not neutered or spayed, but we have a backyard, and my neighbors have got backyards, they don't get out.
I thought
If they're
last
not
time we
neutered or spayed,
discussed
they
this,
gotta pay $50.
I thought last time we discussed this, they said we did have a permit already in place. This was just updating it.
Yeah, we do have an ordinance about it, but this is kind of giving it structure for him to enforce.
You're supposed to have your animals have to
So
have
if
rabies.
you don't have the permit now and don't have the rabies now, you're already violating the code.
Sure.
Most likely.
So what does this do other than, that's not already in place?
They can already enforce that.
It's more of the spaying and neutering on this ordinance, from what I understand, and also,
They're just,
Yeah.
they are overwhelmed, folks, and they are overwhelmed by not purebred puppies. They're overwhelmed by all mutts of any size, any color you want. And they are at their wits' end of what to do about it. Word is out. I'll just tell you that the out-of-town folks are dropping their dogs in Seminole, and our Humane Society is expected to deal with it. So what they're trying to do is make sure that we've got our animals spayed and neutered inside the city.
Aside from that, I love dogs. I always have loved dogs, but dogs are pack animals.
Well,
You get a few of them roaming around together, they can become vicious very easily.
Well, according to what you just said, that's not gonna solve the problem. This isn't gonna solve the problem either.
Well, what it will do, I think, is it will give them a little more confidence about who can pick dogs up and either take them to be destroyed or return them home. I don't want, if I had a dog and it got out, I wouldn't want it to end up in the pound if I didn't have to, because my experience is that I'm a good fence builder, and dogs figure out how to get out.
Well, it sounds like the real reason is people who don't want to do anything with the dogs are bringing them to the city of Seminole because they know we don't have a kill shelter. And that gets it off their minds of worrying about what happens to the dogs.
That could compound it.
Okay, I acknowledge that is part of it, but we don't know the percentage of out-of-town dogs versus what's being generated in town. And what this is an effort to get our citizens protected so their animals are microchipped and spayed and neutered, so that we know that if we get an influx, that some other city has dumped their animals here so that our Humane Society can haul them to Minnesota. It's just, they're being overtaxed, and they're asking for help, and this was one way that we could attempt to help.
If I pass by a yard and there's a large vicious dog barking and growling and slobbering when I go by, I'd like to know if that dog can be tracked back to its owner in case it gets out and eats up another child. I had a elderly patient was walking to the store, and this dog, just took her for a meal. They took chunks out of her large enough to eat, and the same way if that child that was attacked, same thing happened to him. They took big chunks of muscle out of him and was eating him alive. And that's what dogs do, especially large vicious dogs. So I know that it's a problem, or people feel like, well, I'm getting punished along with the guilty and things like that. But most of our laws are based that way. I try to wear a seatbelt every time I get in the car. That's one of the first things I try to do. I haven't quite developed the habit of putting the seatbelt on before I start the car, but I'm working on that. Occasionally, I get a ticket.
Well, for me, it's not as much about the tracking the dogs. I'm fine with having a system in place where we can track the dogs. It's the telling law-abiding citizens, you have to spay your dog. You have to, or you're gonna pay 75 instead of 10. I mean, you're reaching into their pockets and you're controlling them. I mean,
Like with my driver's license.
but as far as forcing them to maybe pay a licensing fee so that the dog's registered, we know where they came from, that's a different issue than forcing somebody to do something they may not necessarily want to do with their animal.
And that's like wearing seatbelts. When the laws first came out to enforce, to cause people to wear seatbelts, where it's against the law not to wear a seatbelt, or to put children in a seatbelt or whatever in the back of their car, or what am I trying to think of? Car seats?
Yeah.
Well, responsible people were doing that. But then there's a large part of responsible people, a large number, that said, well, I'm wearing a seatbelt. I don't have to. That's against my rights to force me to wear a seatbelt when I don't want to. But then who picks up the tab at the emergency room when the accident happens? I mean, gee, I remember riding around the back of those old station wagons, and if we had a wreck, sometimes we'd get a better seating position out of it because it would throw us around in the car.
I'll get back to the dogs here. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, if a dog is picked up and it doesn't have a rabies tag, is that not enough justification for them to take it in and do what they do? Is that the problem, is they're getting too many of those coming in? Or I just don't really see the benefit of this law to where the laws that we haven't already got passed can't solve the problem if they follow the laws. That's where I'm missing it.
I don't-
Change my mind, please.
I'm going to choose my words carefully.
I won't overdo it.
They are overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. If you visit out there today, you will see every single cell is packed to the hilt, which is probably a violation of the health department. Okay, and then to see a truckload of 17 more dogs show up, they don't know what else to do. They really, really want to be a no-kill shelter, and those puppies are precious, and they can't bring themselves to put those dogs down. They don't know what else to do. What they're hoping for is exactly what Brad said. They hope to be able to be in the field, scan it, and it's Corey Crabtree's dog. We'll run him over there. Corey, next time you do that, I'm gonna fine you $25 or something to that effect, so that they can relieve the pressure on the space out there. This is all they know to do. We don't have a solution for them except start euthanizing the dogs and the cats in mass. And I'm talking mass.
Yeah, there's lots of, I don't know how many they pick up just every day. It's a lot. I was amazed.
I have a question, maybe I'm not reading all of it. Is there any non-transferable clause in here that says that if you sell this dog, this license or this microchip doesn't move over to you, because there's nothing in there that says, you're gonna get people who think, oh, I sold my dog, but it was licensed 10 years ago to you. But there's nothing in this ordinance that says you have to go down and change that and make sure that that's microchipped to you or that's licensed to you. Because in 10 years, I don't want a dog I sold you to attack somebody, and they come look for me.
You have to redo it every year.
So there's nothing in this ordinance that says,
Yeah.
if you're selling a dog, you need to go back and redo your license or pay for something or whatever.
It's an annual license.
It's an annual license.
It's an annual
So
license.
within the year, though, if you don't do that,
Well,
what are they gonna do? I mean,
Well, it'll still be trackable. You could,
there are two
who'd
things.
you sell your dog to?
One, license the animal. The other is the rabies. These are two separate things, and they ought to both be done. The animal should be licensed. It should be vaccinated. There should be proof of both. I mean, that's been the law forever.
But nobody's followed it.
That's true. A lot of people don't follow the law at all. That's why we have so many killings in this country.
So how close is this to other cities that are around us? Do we know? Have we reviewed theirs?
I don't know. Again, this was put to the committee, and I think we had Dr. Keene, some veterinarians, and I don't know who.
We had other ordinances that they drew from to piece this together.
If
I
I might
think-
go back to,
Might add one other thing real quick, and I don't know which, I don't have it in front of me, but in the version that you have, I know there was discussion of having, maybe the first year, if you didn't have your, dog or animal neutered or spayed, they would let you do that, and when you brought it in to register, to waive the fee the first time. I don't know if that's the version you have in front of you, but that was
It's the version I saw.
discussed. So, I mean, that would take into, that would relieve a little bit of financial pressure to have your dogs, I think what was it, $30 or $35 to have that done. I'm guessing, I think that's what they said, but just to
Yeah.
clarify that.
The only thing I would add is that we're asking them to permit these dogs for, a minimal fee, $75 if you choose not to spay or neuter it. By the time we capture a dog, take it and house it and feed it, and then eventually transport it to another state for adoption, we've spent a lot more than $75. You have abused the system by your noncompliance to the point that you're now costing the Humane Society and to some degree the city of Seminole more than $75 for the fee.
But that only works on the residents of the city of Seminole, not the people bringing
That's
in
true.
from out of town.
Yes, sir.
visiting them all.
You're
So
absolutely
they're the
right.
ones paying for that.
That's
But
absolutely.
all these dogs that aren't out of towners, some of these dogs live here.
We
So,
just-
I mean,
we don't know
because-
the percentage.
Because what it sounds like when you say it like that, it sounds like we're penalizing our citizens for what people outside of town are doing.
Yep. And that could be true.
Yeah.
Sure could be.
You can say that in some sense, and it's spot on. Where do you start?
You're going the wrong way on convincing me.
Well, I'm on the fence. I mean, I'm gonna tell you this, I have 3 dogs. Two of them are already neutered, but the third one, I'm not gonna do it. He's been around he's 12 years old, and it's gonna cost me $75, but I'm gonna go ahead and pay it.
So
The
why
last-
should we, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, why should we penalize the person that's like you that wants to keep this dog, but they've got a fenced-in yard, they got a doggy door? Why make you pay $75 when you're a responsible citizen?
Let me tell,
I'm sorry.
no,
I
you're
didn't
fine.
interrupt you.
No, I understand that completely. I mean, it's a valid argument. This last attack we had, and I didn't read the complete report, but I was just listening to the details. This young man, this child that was mauled, there were 3 dogs. 2 of them, we knew where they came from, And the third one, we didn't, but we believe it was a neighbor's dog. And it was identified, it was described almost in detail. And they pretty well knew exactly which dog that was. And I think they ended up getting the two dogs, maybe that one too. But, you know, if the dog had had a tag on it, the rabies shot, all the stuff that it needed, you know, it probably, and it turned out, I guess that dog was housed in a neighbor's yard, so it did belong to that person. If that person was under the law and had followed it, then, you know, maybe that dog didn't have to be destroyed, and we would have been able to.
I would rather us have people pay their fees to have the dog, the rabies shots, and the permit to register them. If they don't have, if the dog is not spayed or neutered and they are caught outside of a fence or loose, then they pay $75 to get them back.
And that's
Be a fine.
exactly what Chief said, isn't, I mean, because I visited with Chief in length about this too. But that is one of the things that he did say, is that he's not gonna go knocking down your door and saying, do you have a tag for that dog, if your dog is in your yard?
But it's not about the tag, it's
But,
about
or
when
the
you,
spay and neutering, yeah.
that's the
but,
part, you have
yeah.
to pay when you get your
When you
permit,
get
the
your
way this is
permit,
written.
Yeah, but the difference in the fee is exactly the cost of the spay and neutering. So you do it one time and you save the money the following years. So so spaying and neutering isn't really that pricey. I mean, the difference in the fee is set to be exactly what it would cost to spay or neuter your dog. And the problem is, we're not gonna make everybody happy, but we have to start somewhere. I mean, I don't wanna go get a driver's license every 4 years, but I have to. That's, I mean, and that's just making us responsible for keeping our own animals, and and I think it's a great deal. We have to start somewhere, and we have to start controlling the animal population somewhere. And if it's not with ourselves and the law-abiding citizens, where do we start? Because we can't make the criminals accountable, because they're not gonna be.
Well, the law-abiding citizens aren't the problem.
Exactly, they never are.
Then why would we have to always start with the law-abiding citizens, is what we're saying.
So we can
So I'm
find out
saying
who
let's-
so we can find out who, because if we
And I'm
don't
saying let's
have
require-
a standard, well, then where are we gonna measure it to?
I'm saying let's require the permit, let's make sure they're tagged and they're registered. Then if they're caught loose, we know who those dogs belong to, those people are gonna want their dogs back, then they're fined the $75 if they're not spayed or neutered and they're caught loose.
Is that I mean, it doesn't sound like a bad compromise. Is that something that we could?
Well, it sounded like
and
a-
I don't see
sounds
precedent,
promising.
so.
Yeah, we could do something like that. I could go back and put a version of this together, a different ordinance that would do exactly that. We could, if your dog is caught, we could pass the ordinance, in essence, in two parts, where you tag and register your dog. If your dog is caught, outside the fence, I mean, it's gonna be a higher fee, if that's what you're saying, to have the
Yes.
dog, returned.
They could get them every month.
Yeah. Stephanie, is that
Well,
something that you guys? would-
I have
on
3
the
dogs,
committee?
they're all spayed, so and they're all
Yeah.
kept in a fence unless they sneak out somehow. But-
I have a pet brick.
Let me
Yeah.
just say that, assuming the damage isn't already done,
Yeah.
your
Because
dog's
the
at large
dogs
for
that are
3
out there
days.
gonna Get another dog pregnant or become pregnant by another.
I like that sneak out part.
Yeah.
They find, I've got a
pretty
little
good.
one, I can't find where he's getting out, every now and then I catch him.
Yeah, that's sneaky.
Never mind, y'all. If y'all's fixing to change all that, what we talked about in our vet committee, because what I talked to the AKC about the registering, even if somebody who does not breed their dogs, AKC said that, say if somebody doesn't want to neuter or spade their dogs and they show their dogs for the pure breed, they cannot be spaded or neutered to be shown in their shows.
Yeah, there is a provision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want to table it, I can revise it and come back with a different version for you to consider.
Motion to table.
Second.
Hey, we compromise.
Please.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson,
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert,
Yes.
Larry Church,
Yes,
Tim
reluctantly.
Coughlin. Yes. Bill Waltman,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Motion to table passes.
Item 5, you want us to just skip it, or what do we need to do?
Yes, table that as well.
You want to table it as well?
Motion to table.
Second.
Roll call, please, Judge.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert,
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes,
Tim Coughlin.
Yes.
Bill Waltman,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree. Yes. Motion to table passes.
Current business. Item 6, consideration and possible action to approve the annual renewal of the 5-year Public Works Projects contract with Silver Star Construction. The contract was originally approved in February 2018 and runs through January 2023, subject to annual review and renewal.
This is the same thing that we've had for 15 years or more.
and we're happy with it.
Yes,
Good.
to a large degree. We're a little unhappy with one thing that happened recently, but other than that, we're
Steve, I think they do a good job. Do we not have to post that and have, put it out for bid?
It was. I believe that was one of the last things that Mike did.
So it was originally approved in February 2018. This is our annual review.
Correct.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please, Judge.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Patterson,
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert,
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes,
Tim Coughlin.
Yes.
Bill Waltman,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 7, consideration and possible action to approve closing Brisso Drive from Fairway to Keith Marshall on Saturday, April 4th, 2020, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the Made in Oklahoma Festival, and to designate Main Street as the backup location for the festival in the event of inclement weather.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Patterson,
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert,
Yes.
Larry Church.
yes,
Tim Coughlin.
Yes.
Bill Waltman,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And this one I thought would get the most attention, but what was I thinking when we come to our pets, right? I don't know. Item 8, consideration and possible action regarding construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Bourne Boulevard and Strother, and potential reallocation of the fiscal year 2019-2020 capital improvements projects, budget to fund the project.
So originally, you guys had proposed this, and it was in the budget. Then we remarked the budget and had basically a reallocation. We've had a couple of budget meetings, probably 4 or 5 months ago, and we, the staff, decided that we wanted to wait for warmer weather so that the asphalt is good and warm when they put it down. We didn't want it happening in January, February. So we're ready to proceed with the project, and we just need your blessing to go ahead and tap the reserve fund, so.
I hope people can navigate that better than they can a four-way stop out there at the college.
I think that's why we recommended the roundabout rather than a four-way stop.
Which one is it going on?
This is on the corner of Strother and Boren.
I couldn't remember.
You know, we put in a bunch of roundabouts in Eau Claire, and I lived up there for 19 years. Once you get used to them, they're a lot easier to get around than a
Yes, they
regular
are.
intersection.
And if I may, Mayor, just to remind the public that there's a reason that we're doing this. So we have adopted or taken back that street, which it used to be a highway, and therefore large trucks, specifically brick trucks, et cetera, that were 80,000 plus pounds, were going over that road, and according to ODOT, one truck is equal to 10,000 cars. So in effect, every time a truck goes over it, it ages that a certain number of weeks or months. And because the city took it back and agreed to do the maintenance, we can no longer afford to have trucks go over that road. And so the council has said that we need something that will prohibit trucks from passing. I know the officers write tickets on that, but there is no way, if they're on some other call, we can't keep the trucks off of it. We've recognized that over the last 6 months. We cannot, for whatever reason, even with the flashing lights in their face, the trucks are going to use it if they're able to pass. And it's our intention that roundabout is basically going to not allow trucks to pass down Bourne Boulevard.
We don't have stop sticks or spikes that are based on weight, so much weight to pop their tires.
There's a moneymaker right there. You've got a new patent that needs to be made.
And then we can go into the tire business right next to
Tire
where the-
business, that's even better.
So Steve, I'd like to, and in fact, if I'm wrong, please clarify that, but we didn't choose necessarily to take the road back. The state was giving it back to us no matter what. They offered to pave it for us.
Right.
And get it ready for us versus leaving it like it was, and we would inherit it that way.
That was my understanding, is we had very limited ability, and really what we negotiated for was 3.5 or 4 lanes out by the new high school that was part of the same project. So we said, look, all right, if you're gonna make us take this back, we at least want this out in front of the new high school with turn lanes, et cetera, acceleration lanes, and that was part of the deal.
And they are eventually supposed to do the sidewalks at some later point.
That is
also.
correct. We will get new sidewalks downtown on that road on Broadway.
All right, motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson,
Yes.
Stephanie Lambert.
Yes.
Larry Church,
Yes.
Tim Coughlin.
Yes.
Bill Waltman,
Yes.
Cory Crabtree.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, with that, we will move on to reports. I have a couple things that I need to do here, but one is, I want to remind everyone about the census and how important it is that every citizen make sure that they're accounted for along with their kids, because that is money. Oh, dogs. I don't think we can do that. But that's money that the schools, the cities, the state get, and if we undercount, then that's money that's going away from us and going to someone else.
Right.
A lot of times people blow it off as, I don't need to do that, I don't even want them to know I'm here. Well, it hurts everyone when we don't do that, so I just wanted to kind of throw that out to remind everyone to please fill that out. We do need that as a city and as a state, and everyone else that it affects us as well. With that, I want to thank Dee Dee for his years of service. And since we didn't have an awards section, I'll just do it during my part.
There you go.
So with that, I want to read this to you. You can sit up right now. You don't need to go around. We'll get a picture later.
Okay.
All right. This is presented to Dee Dee Patterson. It is with sincere appreciation that we say thank you for your many years of dedicated service and commitment to the Seminole City Council. Dee Dee, thank you very much. And as I've said before, I appreciate you being of interest to me when I started on the city council. And, we were able to talk through different issues and you were able to help me understand some of the background, the things that were going on, and I really do appreciate that.
Well, if I get credit for it, you were framed with it.
Well, I can't go looking for a bypass now, so sorry. All right, we'll move on with city manager.
First of all, I want to tell you how wonderful it is to have a city council that can have a civil debate and come out the other side and still be able to look at each other in the eye. It's fantastic. Thank you guys for that. I just want the public to know that we're cognizant of the coronavirus. Right now, it's not an issue in Seminole, and truthfully, it's not a big issue in Oklahoma. We have 1 or 2 cases, but we are paying attention, and we're coordinating with Oklahoma Emergency Management And we're well aware of the strategies that are in place, and we're on top of it. So just know that, and you can sleep well tonight knowing that we're there. Storm season is upon us. I think we're expecting some severe weather tomorrow and maybe in some more next week. Please make sure that you've got your plan. And we're going to have, our team is ready. If you have not registered your cellar or storm shelter, we would love to have that registered on our system. We have a fantastic geographic information system that helps us plot on a map where to come find you if there's an issue. So we want to know that. I want to give kudos to the Lions Club. They are about to host our first annual sight impaired Easter egg hunt on April the 11th at 11 a.m. What a wonderful idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing that happen out at the Wellness Center, so congratulations on that. Lastly, I want to give big pats on the back to my staff. We've got 2 new staff members that have done everything that has been asked of them, and I couldn't be more proud of some of the accomplishments that they've made. Sean Carlisle, who happens to be running the board for tonight's meeting, video and sound. I believe Sean's back there, right? So, and then Brianna Weimer, she's been doing fantastic work in our social media area and even giving seminars to our local businesses about how to better have a social media presentation. But that wasn't enough. They had to blow my socks off. So what they did together, they have offered to give everyone CPR. Okay, if anybody wants CPR, raise your hand. Okay, yeah. Actually, it's not the CPR you're thinking of, all right? CPR stands for Citizen Problem Reporter. These folks have designed an app that will go active in 2 weeks? Or before, okay, all right. You will be able to have a City of Seminole app that when you're on Ideal Street, for example, and you pull up to a stop sign and you're completely stopped, don't be driving and texting or using an app.
You look at me when you say that.
Well, you admitted you weren't wearing a seatbelt. I just assumed you were that guy.
I sometimes forget.
You will be able to say, hey, that pothole needs to be fixed. You will be able to tap it. It will bring up a map similar to Google Maps. In our GIS system, you will be able to place a pin or a button, and you will be able to tell us where the problem is and that it is a pothole. So I'm really excited about this. We're going to be able to have everything from animals, vicious animals, loose animals, potholes, stop signs down, lights out. There is pretty much no limit to the problem that you can report on this system. And we're working on being able to get a reply back to you. We haven't quite figured that out yet, but he may poke his head in and say, yes, I did, because that's the kind of people they are. But we do want to be able to get it back to you and say, yes, we received your notification that the pothole on Ideal Street and Van Drive is on our radar now. So again, I'm really proud of what you guys have accomplished. That's going to be a fun tool to work with, and I know that our citizens are going to be excited about it. That's all I have.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Don't have much, but I want to echo what Steve said. I haven't seen this much spirited debate since we tried to mortgage our golf course back a few years ago. But anyway, it is good to see how the process works in such a classy and professional way. That's what I really want to say is, Dee Dee, I just want to tell you, thank you for everything that you've done for our community, the positive contributions that you've made are numerous. We couldn't even begin to count. And it goes way beyond just the 20 years that you served here. And I always just appreciate you, and you've just been a very steadfast and consistent, and been a good mentor for all of us. So thank you very much.
Ward 1, Bill Walton.
Two things. First of all, again, Dee Dee, congratulations for all the years of service you put in here. And it's been a real privilege and a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
The second thing, I just want to share a story with you since we had this great debate about animals. 50 years ago, when my kids were little, they had a dog named Liz. Liz was an extremely fat dog. Overgrown, monstrous. She was supposed to chase rabbits, but all she could do is chase tortoises. She couldn't go fast enough for a rabbit. And she would wander out of our yard on occasion. Everyone in the neighborhood knew her and loved her, so she was in their property with their permission. The city issued a citation against Liz for running at large. My law partner and I decided to defend the case on the grounds, first of all, that she was so fat she couldn't run at all, and there was no law against walking at large. And we even arranged for character witnesses to come in, but unfortunately, the then city of Seminole authorities found out about this, and we were going to report it to the press. We thought we might even make national television. They dropped the charges.
Good. That's great.
Larry Church.
Well, when I first heard about Dee Dee, I thought he was walking on water, but turned out that you're a down-home kind of guy, and appreciate you. That's about all I have to say, except that I know, you're surprised that I'd say that. I said about all, I threw that in. But I'm happy to report that I get a lot of feedback about what the community is doing to help women and children. And I think that what Mr. Williams represents and plans to go forward with, that he and his group, is a step in the right direction to help women coming out of, I don't work with the drug court. I believe in it, but I don't believe in their therapeutic approach. But I do work with the mental health court, and I know that some of our people have issues with chemicals, and we send them, if we can get them into, a recovery program that lasts a few months, and when they come back, well, they're just back to the same old thing. And their success rate, well, I don't know what their success rate is. I can't speak to that. I'm just saying the likelihood of them being able to do well is pretty low. But a place like this will help. Even though I don't like AA, if that's going to be your model, I think that what you're doing is great, and I think it will have positive benefit because it shows that you care. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward 2, Stephanie Lemon.
First off, I want to thank Chris for a good debate. I married my husband because I like to argue, so that's, but honestly, guys, it was, you married your husband too?
It was another life.
And the secret comes in.
I thought he married your husband too.
That's awesome.
Are you going to be able to talk? Ward 3, Tim Parker.
I don't have anything, but thanks for the,
like, it's great that we can sit here and talk and different, you know, discuss things, and I appreciate that with each and every one of you, you know, that's what America's all about. And, we follow it good in Seminole. Thanks everybody for coming out. Good topics, you know, we're here to listen, that's what we do, and weigh them out. And Dee Dee, we've already had a conversation, thanks again. Dee Dee has been a great mentor, what little bit I've done on this council, but you have been a good mentor towards me. But it goes far beyond that, years and years before this council, Dee Dee.
Friends for a long time.
Yes, and you have been a stand-up individual in our community ever since I've known you, and I was pretty young at that time. Thank you. Appreciate you, partner. Good luck the rest of your days.
Ward 3, Corey Crabtree.
Real glad you guys had a laugh at my expense. Anyway, Dee Dee was the first one that actually came to the office today. He found out that I was gonna be on council, and he was more than welcoming, and always said, if you ever need help, call me, ask questions, but always read your material before you come. So people know he's a very studied person, so he does look into this stuff, and you took it seriously, and I appreciate that, and I applaud that. So, something else that no one said, congratulations.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, the mayor was married last Saturday. Some people
Yeah.
didn't know that. I
He's-
told everybody, congratulations.
He's tethered now.
I think you also told it when I got engaged. too,
I did.
so
I was saying congratulations, just being proper. But also one other comment, we came from the Wellness Center board before here. And those of you who do not go to the Wellness Center, you are missing out. Matt does an incredible job down there. I feel like every week he throws something new at us that's just a wow factor. So if you guys don't support that, please do. That's a beautiful facility, and we should take use of it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Ward 4, Chris Hansen.
Well, I'm gonna miss you too, Dee Dee. I've known you since I was, I don't know, I remember you coming to, when I was in kindergarten over here at Lincoln, you were with the group, I don't know if it was the Lions Club or Kiwanis that did the Easter egg hunt back then for the school. Blew the whistle, but you were there. That's been a few years for me, so, but, yeah, thank you for
That was back
being
in my
here.
officiating days.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little weird not having you here to sit next to. But anyway, and I think it's somewhat commendable. I can't remember. I think I've been here for 14, 15 years now. And I can count on probably one hand the number of times we've disagreed on. And the fact that one of those was about dogs, that says a lot about how unified we are and how we tackle problems. So anyway, that's all I have.
It would be interesting to know if it was that heated, if it was cats.
Dogs and cats. Well, dog, it was both.
It's in there, no one brought it up.
Well, on this one, we're saving the best for last.
That's
Dee Dee Patterson.
always last. Well, first off, I'd like to thank Ward 4 voters for allowing me to represent them for 20 years. It's been my pleasure, and everything has been positive. We've never had a negative thing on this council that we walked out of here with. Think about it. And that's a plus, believe me. And Steve, I can't say enough about you and your staff. I appreciate you, I appreciate your staff. You always put the right people in the right place. I've served with 7 different mayors. They've all been sincere and tried to do the best they could. But we've got a strong mayor now, and I'm real proud of you, Jim.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad you're here.
It means a lot coming from
I've served with 30-plus council members. Too many to count, really. Some are deceased. We've had several. If you think back to the number of people we've had. When I started, we had a budget of $6 million. Today, Jay, we're around, what, 23, 24, I think.
We will be this year, that's correct.
And I think that's a credit to not only this council, but to the city of Seminole. You've got a bright future ahead of you. Just don't stop. Keep churning ahead. Don't look back, look forward. Because good things are gonna happen, and they're gonna happen in Seminole. And I love Seminole, it's my home. This is where I'll be buried when my time comes. I've already got my marker out there. I'm very, very pleased to have been a part of this council and this organization we call City of Seminole. And believe me, it's a city now, it's not a town. You brought us from a town to a city, Steve, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Been my pleasure.
But his work is not done yet.
I just want to remind the crowd,
Executive session, oh.
after the meeting, we've got cookies and other goodies over here for you to partake in honor of Dee Dee. Make sure you give him a pat on the back and wish him well before you leave.
So we're gonna vote to enter executive session, and then after we vote, I'm assuming go into executive session. We'll have a few minutes, let you guys say things to Dee Dee and stuff, and we'll enter. So with that, consideration and possible action to enter into executive session under Oklahoma statute Title 25, Section 307.B.3, discussing the purchase or appraisal of real property.
A motion that we go into executive session.
Second. Roll call, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we will play that for a few minutes.
Where you going?